Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dango player. In the position showing, Black has just played a tesuji at J17. So if you want to think about that, you can pause the video and decide what Black is trying to do here and how White should respond. This game was between Nakamura Dōseki and the first Hayashi Monnyu. Nakamura Dōseki was introduced in a previous video, so I'll put a link in the video description. And he was a disciple of Honinbo Sansa and succeeded Sansa to become the second Meijin. Doseki would later found the Inoue school. Hayashi Monnyu was the first leader of the Hayashi school. He has only one surviving game record, which is unusual, even with players from this era. For instance, we have about 80 surviving games for Nakamura Doseki. Go players would change their name sometimes, so he might have played with a different name, but unfortunately wasn't very well documented in Monnyu's case. So there are at least 20 more games that were originally attributed to other players that are now believed to be his games. Monnyu's final rank was Jun-Meijin, or 8 dan, while he might have been a rank lower than that when this game was played. Okay, so the fight started immediately, and White played a low pincer. So this is a move that Nakamura Doseki played a number of times, and it's looking to attack Black's base. So it's attacking Black's ice base in the corner, looking at a move at S14. There was a joseki that was popular in the 20th century, just a few decades ago, where White would play a high pincer. So this pincer, it's similar to the game move in that it's blocking Black from extending on the right side. And in this case, White is making a threat of closing Black in, so isolating Black's grip in the corner by pushing here. So this is threatening to cut Black off, and Black would answer by pushing, and then White would attach. So the idea would be to block Black from taking a position on the right side, and then making sawaki on the top side. So Black would usually extend here, and White would do something like this usually, and it would continue a fight. White might continue on the top side or jump out here. Very popular just a few decades ago. So when he plays low, it's similar to that, only it's not making a threat to surround Black, so Black had time to kick in the corner. And here White played a hane to take sente. So if White had gone straight down, then Black would have jumped from this side. In this variation, White is split into two groups, so it's kind of a splitting attack that Black gets to do. White is still looking at the slide at the mark point, S14. So this would have been a fight, although White does look a bit cramped. So he played this way to get sente. And at this point, something like M16 is something that I would be thinking of. But the game move was the attachment here. And with this, White is still threatening to surround the Black group in the corner, to linking up with White's stone on the right side. However, Black's corner is alive, so it's not as if that corner is going to be attacked, so Black played away. Okay, and he kicked. So kicking here, it might be easier to put the Black stone on the board, this one. So this is an Atari, and White would answer it, and then Black could play here. So it's the same thing. In the game, Black didn't play that Atari, but he's probably was going to play it if White bumped against Black, and it would end up being the same shape. So in this shape, Black has a living shape in the corner, partly because Black has that cut at P18, but it's going to be difficult for White to kill it anyway. So White played a pincer and cut here. So this is the position I was showing at the beginning of the video. And this attachment, it's making a threat. So Black is threatening to capture at N18. So if White plays something on this side, Black can capture this stone. So it's making a hanging connection. Without that exchange, Black couldn't do it. So if Black had played here, White would curl around and link up to that stone on the side. And it would be bad for Black. So White curled around. So this is White's strongest response, creating a cut on the fourth line. And black, this is the strongest local move. So this started a big fight. Black could have avoided that by playing a Hane here. This is a game with no komi, so black has a starting advantage. And so a trade like this would have been good enough for black. Black's giving up the marked 4 stones sometimes, but white has a lot of stones in the area also. So it's okay for black to be sacrificing those stones. In the game, this is the stronger move. White cuts, and black curled around. The idea being to squeeze white. So if white captures here, black has to defend a cutting point. Probably a trade something like this. So in this case, black would capture in a ladder and would be getting outside influence while giving white a small territory on the top side. However, white extended here. So it's interesting to sort of wonder if black had overlooked that move. Pushing here, it doesn't work because this is going to create another threat on the right. There's the ladder here. So there's no way to save everything because in this case, now it's the group on the top that's getting into trouble. So black can't do that. And he had no choice but to connect here. And so we start a big fight in the center of the board. When white plays the hanging connection here, that's saving the 3 stones on the left, and at the same time, it's saving this stone. So white is starting to make some threats against black's group in the corner, but there's still a long ways to go before it becomes a real threat. So I'll talk about that later in the game. Black played an Atari. If black had cut here, then white would have jumped here, and M14 here, or extending here would have been Miai. So that's why that's not really working for black. So black played here and pushed. And here black is trying to link up to the black stones in the center, I suppose. And now black is starting to build on the left side. So this is a very powerful way for black to play. In some cases, black might be thinking of sacrificing the few black stones in the center of the board, and black is going to be building on the left side. And some viewers might be surprised that the lower half of the board is completely empty. Of course, in the beginning of the game, Go Theory does say that you're supposed to play 4 open corners. So at that point, it could be said that they started the fight a bit too early. But once the fight gets started, it's probably more important most of the time than the empty corner. So it's okay for black to be continuing the fight here. And he's strongly building on the left side. So at this point, if white plays something like this, black is prepared to sacrifice those stones and get a big position on the left side. So white plays the Hane and double Hane. And there's a threat against the white stones also. So if white plays something like this, black might just play here, and black's going to capture 10 white stones on the top side probably. So something like this. And they wouldn't be able to escape. So white answered with this, and black played here. So this was a safe move. It did give white good shape here. So the alternative was to play a jump here. And so something like this maybe would be better shaped towards the top left corner. So this would give black a nice territory there. In the game, he took in a ladder. And now black took an empty corner. So white's starting the attack in the center. And when white pushes through here and covers here, white has isolated the black group in the center and is actually making a threat against black's group in the top right corner. So this group here, no longer is it alive. So the What white did here is that white made it impossible for black to play this forcing move because white set up a snapback. So this is forcing, but it's equally ineffective because at any point white can play at r15 and capture in a snapback. So white's created a position which is actually fairly well known. So some players might recognize it. If you don't, you have the whole game to think about that position because they didn't play it out. And so at the end of the game, I will make a explanation of the basic life and death that they have there in the top right corner. So I'll get back to that at the end of the video. Okay, so black's trying to build shape here, but he didn't want to sacrifice those 3 stones. I think sacrificing them was an option, but black saved them. And then started another fight on the left side. The left side there's a lot of space there, so white does have to answer that. Black is not playing this exchange. Black could have played this exchange. It would have made it easier to sort of see how black is connected. But black doesn't really need that, so black left it. There's no really good reason for black not to be playing that exchange, so basically it doesn't really matter very much. Beautiful. So this is good timing for white to be playing the 3-3 point before white decides the borderline of black's territory on the left side. So, for instance, at some point, if black had played here, this would have been a really big move. It would have secured the whole corner, so that would give black something around 40 points there. And it would have taken away the base from white's group on the left side. So this was actually, it was a move that black could have played. So that's why it's important for white at some point to do something about that. So white's starting with this move. If white had played something like this, then this would have just defined the black territory. It would have given the whole territory to black. And so what white's doing here is white's trying to get something extra. So here in the double hane, and black played here. So if black had played on this side, this would be an example of white ending up living in the corner. So white would cut and play here. If black captures, so just locally, it's not really alive, but there's that stone at e13. So for instance, if black does this and this, black can kill the group in the corner, but bad things will be happening when white does this. So black probably just takes and white can live in the corner. And in the game, black prevented that by crawling here. So white squeezed. I guess sacrificing these 2 stones was an option, but they are cutting stones. So black saved them and white played here. And black immediately played here. So this captured the white stone at b16, and it was a big move. So there's, usually this would not be a big move. So there's a reason, and that is that if black had played away, obviously an open corner is big, and white had played here, there's going to be a follow-up move in the corner. So if black plays away again, white can peep here and here. And if black extends down, this would usually be the tesuji, to extend black's liberties in the corner and make it difficult for white to capture that black group. But white would also extend liberties at 8. And if we count the liberties, black's group in the corner has 4 liberties. White's group on the top side might look like it has 6 liberties. It's actually 5 liberties because as they fill the liberties, white's going to have to fill this one. So that wasn't a liberty that white could call his own. But white is 1 move ahead. So in this case, the black group would actually die. So in actual play, black would do this and this, and it would be some kind of a ko. Probably not so good for black. So at some point, black has to answer. If white 2 is a forcing move, that's a big move. It's very big. And so that justifies black playing here. It still puts just a little bit of pressure on white's group on the left side, and it's a very big move as far as territory is concerned. So white jumps out here, starting to make an attack in the center. And the fight continues. So consistently throughout this fight, black has been saving the cutting stones and is trying to force white to play a passive move in the center of the board. So this white group, it's not as if it's going to die. If white plays here and here, this white group is alive. So white can make a life there, but black would be satisfied if white had to play that move, which is, as far as territory is concerned, it's very small. So white jumps out, making an attack on white's weak connection. So when white has been forced to play this peep, that does justify black's attack here. So black did get something out of it. And white managed to connect up all the stones. So this was a squeeze, and white got to connect here. Although it's a very nice shape, white does potentially have some issues with eyes. So white has to move out. So just locally, if we look at the weaknesses only of white's shape, if black plays here and then here, white needs to make two eyes just on this side. So it's not going to be easy. So for instance, this way, black would be able to kill it with this one. However, when black played here and white played here, this did create some damezumari in black's position in the corner, so a shortage of liberties. So it could have been that black would have done better to play here and then here. So this is threatening to cut at d6. And in this variation, the cornerstones, these stones would have an extra liberty, so they would be stronger than they were in the other variation. So white's going to show us a tesuji here. White played the cut on the third line. So here white has created the damezumari with b4, and now white cuts here. If black plays here, white can cut in the corner. So in this variation, white would get the corner. Black would get sente. So this would be okay for black in a no komi game. Black still has an advantage. And black has territory mostly in the top left corner. So black does have a good amount of territory and an advantage on the lower half of the board. So this would have been okay. In the game, black took the one stone, not giving anything up. White gets to split the black groups. So by doing so, white has strengthened the group on the left side. And so to look at white's group on the left, white has various aji against black's corner. At the very least, white has a forcing move here. So if white plays here, this is threatening to cut here, and this would kill black's group in the corner. So usually black can't allow that and would answer here. That means that white's group on the left side is alive. So if black pushes through here in this variation, black doesn't have time to kill the white group. So here I'll talk about the top right corner. So the final move was white playing here, and the rest of the game moves were not recorded. Let's take a look at the top right corner. First, I'll show you in a basic life and death problem. So this is what it looks like usually when we show you this as a life and death problem. It's quite often shown with black playing first. So if black plays just here, then white can kill the corner by playing a hane and a placement at the key point. So this is a combination of the proverb that says the hane kills, so that's white 2 in this variation, and the fact that the 1-2 point is in the corner is the key point to life and death. So if black continues playing here, white will play here. If black plays here, white throws in. So if black plays here, white can play an Atari here. And this is a dead 3 shape. So by playing the Hane at 2, white has reduced black's eye space and created a position where the point at S19 was the key point that killed black. If black had played here, it would have been a different sumego. So it's still, the Hane is the vital point. So the Hane still kills, but this time it's going to be a ko. So this would be a ko. Okay, getting to black's move, it turns out that the Hane here is a key point. So then white will have to answer it, and then black can play here. So in this variation, black has created a position where he doesn't have to answer this move at T18, but can actually, if he answers at T18, it's going to revert to the previous shape. So it's going to be dead again. So he can answer here. So this keeps the eye at T19, and it helps black making the eye at R18. So if white plays here, black can play here, securing an eye at R18. And since white cannot crawl at T18, black gets the eye on this side too. So that's how it works. So looking at it in the game position, white can play a Hane here. So it's important to play this Hane before black gets to play the Atari at Q19. So reverting to the previous problem, if white plays something like this, it starts to look like the problem I was just talking about, in which black can play an Atari here, and if white connects, then black can play here and have the living shape. So in this case, white has to play the Hane immediately, and it turns out white doesn't have time for this move, because this would just let black play the key point and live. So white has to go for the key point immediately. So if black answers here, it's going to start to look like that life and death problem that we looked at before. So there's this situation in the top right corner where black will eventually have to add a stone, probably at Q19. But for the time being, they're still fighting on the bottom side. White's group in the center might eventually need a stone at K13 to have a living shape. And black's group on the left there, it's not 100% safe either. So black's next move would probably be, it could be here, or black could play something in the corner. So black has these two weak groups, and white has this group, which is, white just needs one more move in the center eventually to make a living shape. So it's, I wouldn't call it weak, but it is something that white has to pay attention to. If we look throughout the board, black does seem to have some more territory. But the fact that that group in the top right is not alive makes it undecided. So it's a pretty close game still, and no one knows who won this game. So thank you for watching to the end, and I'll be making more videos about the golden era of Go. I hope you enjoy them.